Hey y'all, today is going to be a little bit interesting because I'm going to talk about what my previous relationships taught me about men and money. Because your girl had a few relationships. I had just a couple, right? And I noticed something different about the four that I'm going to talk about and how they just kind of made me realize certain things, put me aware, put things into perspective. So let's get into the first one. This was my first ever real boyfriend relationship. I was about 21, 22. And he was a manager for a phone company. He was making around $80,000 in 2012. That was amazing. $80,000. He had his own apartment, had his own Lexus. He was living the life. And we met, we moved in together, and I did not have to worry about any bills. All I truly had to worry about was making sure, the house was clean, making sure I cooked dinner. My money was my money. We didn't share expenses then. I knew how much he made, but I didn't know how much was in his bank account. He knew how much I made, but he didn't know how much was in my bank account either. So it was really a nice, easy relationship. It did end up going left, but that's neither here nor there. He ended up cheating while I was in a depressive episode. He still apologizes about that, but I'm just whatever, it is what it is. But the thing I took away from that lesson was that, he didn't need me to fund his life. I didn't need him to fund my life. And it wasn't even 50-50. It was very much, we're together, but I handle the house, the house bills, and you just handle what's in the house. And it worked out for us. But what I learned was that when I broke up with him, I had to move out, and I could not afford to live on my own, right? That lesson it really taught me, girl, you can never be broke. I wasn't a teacher at the time. I was an assistant. I wasn't making much money. I don't even think I was full-time. I might have been no, I was full-time. I was assistant. But I quickly realized if my sister did not come to save me when I tell her I was not going back to that man's house, it would have been an absolute disaster. It would have been something that was just I would have been homeless. Thank God for my sister, because I absolutely would have been homeless. I wouldn't have had no place to live. And that lesson stuck with me literally from that day. I made sure that I started to save my money. It wasn't just going out doing what I want anymore after that. It was legit girl, this man, you broke up with him and you don't have anywhere to go. You don't have anywhere to go. And I was just damn, you know how real that is to sit here and say, if my sister was anywhere else in the world, I would be homeless because I broke up with the man. And that is not something that I ever wanted to deal with again. That's not something that I wanted to experience again. So first relationship lasted 2.5 years. When I left him, I realized you can't leave a relationship broke. You cannot leave a relationship broke. Take that lesson, start saving money. I don't care if you're married. I don't care if you've been married for years. I don't care if you have children with this person. You need to make sure that you have money saved as a just in case, because things are really that at this point. It's a just in case. If nothing never happens, great. If something does happen, at least you've been putting your money aside to make sure that you can afford, to move out when you need to. Let's talk about the second relationship. The second guy I dated was so great at making money. He was always a manager, right? He was in the army. So he got his disability money also. He got all those things. He lived the lifestyle. His lifestyle was simple, but it was very much, he needed someone to also be making money. Again, at that time, I was still in school, still working on becoming a teacher. So I was a teacher assistant, not making a lot of money. And the very hurtful lesson that man taught me was that he said, you don't make enough money for me. I remember we were on a walk. It was nighttime. I remember he was just you don't make enough money for me. And you know what? I do not deny that he was absolutely right. I did not make enough money for him. He long story, don't have no time, right? He also had a girlfriend before that who was making great money. She was making more money than I was, right? They would split things 50-50. Like, he handled the finances in their relationship. Like, he's very good at handling money. He's very good. He's a very transactional person. So for him, he understands, if I want to check this box off of buying a house, I need to make sure me and this person has this much money. If I want to make sure we're taking a trip, I need to make sure we have this money, right? So although his relationship was very much 50-50, and not with me because we never lived together, but I saw it with his ex-girlfriend, whatever, right? Although that relationship was very much like 50-50, we split things. He told me I was making enough money for him, and he was right. I did not, girl, I was broke. I did not make enough money to be trying to live with this man. But getting those two back to back was the fire that I needed. I think after that second one where we had that conversation of me not making enough money, I started bitch on budgeting. I got on my financial journey. I started getting my life together, because it was like, girl, this is the second time you're realizing, right? You don't make enough money. You don't have enough money. You don't save enough money. You're in debt. All these other factors, and you're struggling. And obviously people could see that you're struggling. So for me, that second relationship, I was just like, no, get it together. And it propelled into my financial journey. So low key, I was like, bro, I'm gonna prove this just so you could see that what you thought I wasn't while I was in the process of trying to be that, I am going to be that. And I became that girl with money or whatever. So like, hard lesson to learn from a man, but it was honest. And I don't think I've ever experienced such honesty with anyone that I've been with. And it was nice. It was refreshing. It was the fire that I needed. It was the thing. Like, I knew I would be here, but someone basically telling me that they don't see me really being there was like, now you're going to see me be there. So takeaway number two, sometimes it's honest. Sometimes it's nice to have people who are honest around you, who are going to inadvertently push you while, still hurting your feelings at the same time. Now, the third guy looked like he had money, but didn't know anything about finances. I felt like I had taken a step back. Like, all the things were nice, the flowers, the cards, the gifts, all those things were beautiful. But when I had to sit down and think about, like, you're getting me all these things, but you're not paying your car insurance, right? You're not paying your car note. All your credit cards are maxed out. Like, all these things, it made me realize, it made me try to help this person. And for them, they always felt like I was talking to them in a condescending tone. But I was like, yo, if we're going to be together, like, there's just certain things I need. There's just certain, like, aspects of our lives that are going to have to make sense, that are going to have to match. Like, we can't just be out here looking like we have money and having no money. So that was the first thing I noticed, was that not only at that point I was making more than him, which wasn't my problem. It was just the fact that you wanted to look like you had money all of the time when you didn't. There's a difference between looking like you have money and having money, and then looking like you have money and then having no money, right? Like driving a BMW, having, designer sneakers, designer clothes, like doing all these things. And there was so much arrogance behind it. Like, I would get a gift and he'd be like, yeah, thank me. No, I will not. And I think that also added to it, because I'm like, you arrogant with nothing, right? Like, I was trying to, help him with his finances, get it in a space where that we can live together. And he was always pushing back on the not living together, but I understood why. Like, when I really sat back and thought about it, I was like, he would not be able to afford half the bills. He would not be able to afford 30% of the bills. His money was so tied up in clothes and cars and car insurance that there was no money left for him to really be in a relationship that was mutual, that was 50-50. He at that point could not do 50-50. And he was older than me, and I was just like, when are we going to learn? You're sleeping on the couch at your mother's house. Like, at 36, 37, 38, like, and you have someone trying to be there to help you. It honestly just didn't work, because he didn't, like, it started turning into oh, you think you bougie? You think you better than me? Like, I was like, I'm not raising my kid in the hood. He's like, why? I was like, because I don't want to raise my kid in the hood. Like, I came from an area, where I used to have to look behind me as I was walking home. Like, people would follow me home. Like, there were just certain places, right, you would not walk. Like, I used to have to cross over a bridge from the train, and people would be there ready to rob you. I'm like, I don't want my child to grow up in this environment. But to him, it was like, oh, you're too good. You want to leave this area. And I was like, it has nothing to do with being too good, and absolutely everything to do with not wanting my child to experience the dangers that I experienced. But I think it was really just the simple fact that even if I stayed in the hood, you couldn't help me afford to stay there. So what am I doing? It absolutely did not and completely would not work. So the lesson I took from him is that sometimes you can't save people. Babe, you gotta let them people go. And he was one of those people where I just had to let him go. There was no willingness to change. Like, there was no willingness to want to be better. And for me, I'm not about to be with you, marry you, spend life with you, and we can't talk about money, and you don't want to go about making more money, and you don't want to go about fixing your finances because you rather look good. Next person. This guy was, he had a nice professional job, making great money. He gave me whatever I wanted, but wasn't committed. Right? So he was at a point where, his trauma response to things was, since I couldn't get all these things when I was younger, I'm going to get all them now. So he easily had like a $40,000 closet. And I'm not talking about like big label designer logos and stuff. Like, it was shit that you would have never knew was a $500 sweater if you didn't know the brand. Like, it was that type of spending money. And that taught me a lesson in just making sure that I start thinking about myself as well, that I start incorporating myself into my budget, because he was incorporating himself, me, everything into his budget, right? I told him about a Roth IRA. He opened a Roth IRA, all of those things. He was just not committed to me. It was a good time. It was a great time, right? I got so many things out of that relationship, materialistic wise. So we went on vacation together. I got my Saint Laurent bag. I got a MacBook Pro, a camera. Like, I never had to worry about paying for food. He took me to see Hamilton. Them Hamilton tickets was not cheap. All right. And he fell asleep during the show. But he took me to see Hamilton. Like, he was very thoughtful. But I knew I was just, at some point I started to realize when he didn't want to commit to being in a full, like, boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, that I was just a placeholder. But I said, if I'm going to be this placeholder, and he made it a nice placeholder. I will not lie when I say that. He made it a nice placeholder. So if you're in anything, in any type of situationship, like, be the placeholder that's on the top shelf, all right? Don't be the one on the bottom shelf collecting dust. I literally had no worries in that relationship. I'm like, I want to go to Mexico. He was like, all right, here's the money. Oh, okay. I think that was probably one of the first relationships where whatever I thought of, whatever I hinted towards, and I'm this person, whatever I thought of, whatever I hinted towards, I got. I was like, oh my gosh, my computer's messing up. Computer was at my house, $2,000 computer at my house the next day. Oh my gosh, I want to get into YouTube. I want to get into recording. Sony camera, at my door the next day, right? And that's me. I'm that type of person also. When it's like, you hint something in my mind, I'm always like, I'm going to know and I'm going to save it forever. But it was just that he just wasn't committed to me. But you know what? As hurt as I was, and I think I was just so more hurt over the fact that, like, he went on a vacation with his friends and came back with a girlfriend. Like, as hurt as I was, when I think about it, it was fun for what it was. It was a great time. I don't even know the lesson is, babes, if you're going to be in a great time with somebody, make sure it's a great time all around for you as well. Last but not least, this last person I dated was over seven figure net worth. But I realized that no amount of money could make up for the fact that we just did not communicate. Like, it was no real conversation there. It was no, could I have made it work? Sure, right? But it wasn't what I wanted. It was so weird because it was like, you really don't have, and maybe if I was that woman who was okay with that, that would be fine. But I wasn't. Like, you don't have time to talk. You don't have time to talk to me. You don't have time to, like, we don't see each other too often. Like, you're focused on your career so much, and what you say and what you want don't match, right? Like, you say you want commitment, you say you want all these things, but how you're showing up did not give me that. And it just made me realize, like, money is a big part, but my God, if I can't communicate with you, if we can't talk, if we can't share things, like, what's the point? Like, yeah, you could give me the $500 here, right? You could give me, the money here. You can put money into my business. All those things are great, but, like, why can't we just sit down and have a conversation? Why can't we just sit down and, like, talk? And again, that was another fun time. I'm a girl about fun times, okay? I've changed and I've settled down, but I was a girl about fun times. Like, that lesson was, money is great, but if you can't have those other factors in there, then for me, it wasn't worth it, right? So yeah, could I have made it work? Sure. Would it have been fun? Probably not, right? If I can't express myself, talk how I want to talk, get my random thoughts out, like all these things I do now with my husband now, and he's just like there and he gets it and we communicate and he understands. I could not do that with this person, and it was just like, yo, we ain't gonna work. We ain't gonna work. All the other little fun stuff was fun in there, but we're not gonna work because I simply just can't communicate with you. So those 4 interactions with those 4 men taught me so much. That took a lot of my 20s, if not all of my 20s, right? A lot of my 20s, a little early, a bit of the 30s. But it quickly made me realize how men move with money, how men are when they really want to be with someone and committed, and how different trauma responses can really not only impact the man, but impact the relationship that he has with the person that he is with. So it was just a lot of different men. And I touched on those 4 simply because I learned something different from all of those. So my question to you is, let me know, was there a lesson that you learned from a man? And what was the most pivotal point in that where it had you thinking like, oh, this man is making sense, or this man is not making sense and I can't see myself with this man? Let me know. Mwah.